stories the day before. It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. My name's Dominic Frisby and this is the show which has comedians read tomorrow's papers so you don't have to. And before we meet those comedians, we have the news, which will be read to you tonight by Polly Middlehurst with impeccable diction as always.
No pressure. The headlines this hour. The Metropolitan Police Commissioner, Dame Cressida Dick, resigned tonight. She says she'll stay on for the next few weeks until she is replaced. She added that throughout her career, she sought to protect the people of London, a wonderful, thriving and diverse city. In a statement, though, the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, said, "It's clear the only way to start to deliver the scale of the change required is to have new leadership right at the top of the Metropolitan Police." Addressing the public, Dame Cressida says the role has been the greatest honour and privilege of her lifetime.
Following contact with the Mayor of London today, it is quite clear that the Mayor no longer has sufficient confidence in my leadership of the Metropolitan Police Service for me to continue as Commissioner. He has left me no choice but to step aside. I say this with deep sadness and regret.
Dame Cressida speaking earlier. Well, Boris Johnson has thanked the Met Commissioner, saying Dame Cressida has served her country with great dedication and distinction. The former Home Secretary Jackie Smith told GB News earlier the decision, though, doesn't surprise her.
Oh, it's a shock in some ways because she'd only today said she wasn't going to step down. I think if you lose the confidence like that, and she said publicly that she feels the Mayor had lost confidence in her, then it's not that surprising that she feels that she has to go.
Jackie Smith. Well, in other news today, the Prime Minister says Poland and the UK won't accept a world in which a powerful country can bully or attack its neighbours. It comes amid continuing fears of a Russian invasion into Ukraine. Speaking after meeting the Polish Prime Minister, Boris Johnson said Poland is critical to security in Eastern Europe, adding when Poland is threatened, we're all threatened. He said Russia must understand the consequences of an invasion.
I think everybody should be in no doubt that were Russia to be so foolish to make the catastrophic mistake of invading any part of Ukraine, the Ukrainian army, which themselves number about 200,000, maybe 150,000 in reserve, they will fight.
Boris Johnson speaking in Poland earlier today. Now, news here at home. Wales will scrap COVID passes and the need to wear face masks in certain venues later on this month. The First Minister, who incidentally has tested positive for COVID, will confirm the changes tomorrow. Mark Drakeford said vaccination levels and decreasing numbers of cases in hospital means Wales can look forward to brighter times ahead. Meanwhile, Buckingham Palace said Her Majesty the Queen is not showing symptoms for COVID-19, despite meeting her son Prince Charles on Tuesday, who has since tested positive for the virus for the second time. The palace hasn't confirmed if Her Majesty has tested positive or negative, citing medical privacy. Prince Charles and the Duchess of Cornwall attended an event at the British Museum last night. On TV, online and on your radio via DAB+, you are with GB News. Now time for headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Dominic Frisby and I'm a clean-shaven Dominic Frisby. Joining me tonight is Seattle's leading Harry Potter impersonator in the over 45s category, Eric McElroy. Hello, Eric. How are we doing today?
I'm doing all right, yeah.
Good day. Anything happen?
No, not really. Walked the dog, as always, which is a highlight of the day, I suppose.
It is, I know the feeling. And we have South Cumbria's answer to George Michael, Nick Dixon. Hello, Nick. How are you doing?
I'm well. Great to be here. Looking forward to spreading more hate speech and disinformation.
OK, well, with that in mind...
You're good at it.
With that in mind, let's crack through tomorrow's headlines. And we start with the Daily Mail, which has, no surprise what all the papers are leading with pretty much today. Calamity Cressida fired, but what took so long? And there's also COVID fears for Queen as Charles tests positive. We'll be covering both of those stories in a moment. The Times is also leading on scramble for new Met chief after Dick quits. The Guardian has Met Police chief forced out over toxic culture failings. The Independent has Met Police chief quits after serious scandals. There's also a pic of Liz Truss with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, along with the headline, Russia mocks Truss in icy Ukraine talks. That's another story that we'll be looking at. On to The Telegraph, which has Cressida Dick forced out as head of the Met. Also, death trust indeed, mocked by Russian counterpart after tense meeting. We turn to the FT, which has Johnson looks for investment Big Bang with regulatory deal. That's a reference to the Big Bang of the 80s that triggered the Thatcher boom. I guess Boris is looking for his own version of that. There's also a picture of Cressida Dick and Fed under greater pressure to act as US inflation surges to a 40-year high. 7.5% inflation was announced in the US earlier today, and the markets reacted with a big downward turn. On to the Express, the Daily Express. Fears grow for Queen as Charles gets COVID. That's because Charles came into contact with her recently. The Metro has gone. The Metro's gone with Cressida ditched. Not bad, but none of them have done the obvious one. And we turn to the Star. And the Star has, bizarrely, tickle the sickle to stop World War III, which is something to do with Uri Geller. And they also went for it, nobody else did, but they went for the dicks out. And those are the headlines. Well, just hours after she appeared on BBC Radio dismissing suggestions that she would leave the job, Dame Cressida Dick has resigned as Met Commissioner. All sorts of obvious jokes to be made around her surname. Eric, what do you make of it all?
I'm going to stay clear of those.
We've been advised to stay clear, and stay clear is what we will do.
There's other people that can do that in other forums, I suppose. I mean, it's quite a novel thing to see in UK politics, someone taking responsibility for their actions and resigning, something I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more of, to be honest. Maybe it's catching, but I mean, she's somebody who, I mean, she wasn't making the left happy, she wasn't making the right happy. She lost the confidence of the mayor. I mean, it's got to be a rough job to have that many people upset with you and yelling at you all of the time. It kind of reminds me of when we used to do the big Christmas gigs, if you remember those, with some rowdy British crowds. I would imagine it's quite similar to that. But
Yeah, it can't be said that her tenure has been the most successful, Nick, can it?
Well, I know what you mean. I mean, we see the stats on the police not solving burglaries, not solving crimes. They seem to spend more time policing thought these days. They like kneeling. So there's a lot of criticisms you can make. Like you say, it's a very tough job. The police seem to like her. The only thing is, I look at it and my instinct is, yeah, she's not done a great job just judging what I see from the outside. Then again, the fact that Sadiq Khan wants to get rid of her makes me think maybe she is good because he doesn't do anything right. So I'm confused, Dom.
You're torn.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's my little Twitter bubble or whatever it is, but everyone was moaning about her for the last 2 years. Every time there was some incident, she could do no right. But, you know, I guess she had to go. You know, there's one thing after the other, worse being Sarah Everard, but all the racist stuff, the recent thing with all the jokes passing hands in Charing Cross.
Tens of thousands of people in the Metropolitan Police, so it is a lot to say that she's responsible for every single message that gets sent. But I guess it's the idea of the culture that's there. I mean, I know some people who work for the police, and you know, she felt that this person I know thought that Cressida was quite liked, which in a way, I guess. Should she be liked in that environment, or should she be someone who the police, you know, more respect and fear because she's got to be the one to be the enforcer of the enforcers? So maybe being liked isn't enough.
That's what you mean.
No, and it's particularly not when the police aren't there to be liked, are they?
I know what you mean.
They're there to be respected, but not liked.
But she was liked by the police. I think that is a reasonable point. The police like her. They will not like this. Someone else is going to have to replace her who may not be as good.
Sorry, okay, fair.
Yeah. The irony is that she's not politically. She's way too politically correct for the right, but she's actually gone because she's not politically correct enough for Sadiq Khan, hasn't she? Finally, because of the not taking care of the sort of misogynist, so-called misogynist culture.
I don't know if it's politically correct to be not wanting your police officers to be acting in a misogynist or racist way.
I was putting in a broad term.
I guess the problem is the right and the left have different ideas about what needs policing, and she's caught in the unsolvable middle. All I can say is if the regulators get hold of the messages that have been sent to me on my phone, I'm done for. I don't even know what I'm going to be sacked from, but I'm going to be sacked for something. Anyway, for our second story, we turn to The Independent, and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has been belittling our Foreign Secretary Liz Truss. Nick, how dare he?
Indeed. He says it's like talking to a deaf person. And there was a particular gaffe that Liz Truss made. They said to her, you do recognise Russia's sovereignty over Rostov and Voronezh regions. And she said, Great Britain will never recognise Russia's sovereignty over those regions, but they're actually in Russia. So she didn't know where Voronezh was, and now they're on edge. Dom, that's my joke I've gone with. It's a Russian city pun. I've done my absolute best to make this story funny. But yes, it's essentially a story about escalating tensions. They're all on edge.
Who did you nick that one off?
Nice. I think that's a Dostoevsky novel. Yes, that was my best I could do. That's what it's about. She's made a gaffe before about the Baltic Sea as well. She's made a couple of geographical gaffes. They're using that against her. It's all kicking off.
I mean, it would be easy for us to get the Russian Foreign Secretary over here and you know, name towns in Ireland and say, should they be under British rule? Well, Wales, they should be under British rule in Southern Ireland. And, you know, it's quite an easy trick to play on her and a little bit naughty. And, you know, she can't be expected to have a wonderful geography of everywhere in the world.
Yeah, she's only the Foreign Secretary. Why should she be expected to know where parts of Russia are?
No. Eric. Where everywhere is. I mean, I hadn't even heard of those regions, but I'm not the Foreign Secretary. I'm sort of going to defend Liz Truss at all costs.
She probably should have said, I'm not familiar with those particular regions. I'll get back to you in a minute.
That's probably what she should have said. That's
not a good sign of a Foreign Secretary either. I mean, I'd never even heard of Liz Truss until she became Foreign Secretary. I mean, you know, and I pay attention to British politics, you know, for someone who's lived here for 22 years. But, I mean, where have some of these people
She was the Trade Secretary before.
I thought you were a big fan of the Tory party and you followed them all like a football team. Well, she's big on trade, isn't she? She's big on, like, trade deals.
Fantastic job in trade. I will say, I mean, some of these comments are incredible. They left her standing alone at the conference. They said they compared her diplomacy to the frozen ground because any facts we presented them bounced off it. I mean, they're certainly not scared to insult the British diplomats, which, never mind the rights and wrongs of Liz Truss, are pretty damning about how little they think Britain counts for if they're that rude about us. Anyway, on that note, The Sun and most other papers are reporting, Eric, that the Queen was with Prince Charles in recent days, and he's just tested positive for COVID. He was triple jabbed as well. What do we make of this? Is the Queen going to get COVID?
I mean, we have to hope not. Obviously, she's 95 and she's beloved in the country. And I'm hoping here that she doesn't seem to me like she's much of a hugger. I think it's fair to say that, and especially with Charles. Apparently in public, they normally greet each other by shaking hands and a kiss on the cheek, or a kiss on the hand and a kiss on the cheek. I would imagine when they're not in public, it's more of just a fist bump. But I'd like to
that sounds really formal, but I guess if you're just pulling someone in to do that...
It's weird,
especially if it's your mother.
A bit weird to kiss your mother on the hand every time you meet her, isn't it? Imagine having to do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, she's the Queen.
Well, there's that.
If your mother was the Queen, I'd hope you would treat her with the utmost respect, Nick. But
I always do.
I mean, they said that the Queen... I mean, Charles has got to be kind of like, this was going to be his story day, that he's got COVID, and now, of course, he's been harumped by his mother once again. But who
hasn't even got it?
Yeah, well, hopefully not. But she's taking daily lateral flow tests, which I hadn't actually imagined the Queen taking a lateral flow test, because, you know, you're not allowed to touch her generally. I don't know if it's a special swab, if it has to be given by the butler, if it's taken away and kept in the National Archives afterwards so no one gets her DNA.
Is she doing PCP tests? Does she have to go down the local car park, the local Sainsbury's car park, to do a PCP test?
Obviously, we hope that she's well.
Is she taking ivermectin, Nick? That's what we wonder.
Very doubtful, Dom, since it doesn't do anything. Isn't it a horse dewormer or something? Or is that the other one? Which is the other one? Which is the one we're not supposed to take?
Ivermectin is the horse one.
That's the one where we're supposed to hate and not take, because Joe Rogan likes it, or something like that.
Because it doesn't do anything.
That's what you guys say.
And facts.
Yes, I don't know. I have a dark joke about it, but I'm backing off it. I'm thinking, we're on GBNews. We play the national anthem every day. I can't even make the joke. It's not even worth it.
I've got some ivermectin at home. I got some in case I got COVID. Then I got COVID, and I thought I didn't take it, and I was fine.
And how are your worms?
I don't know. You'll have to ask my doctor about that. Now, of all Remainers, it's hard to find one more bitter than the former Prime Minister John Major, who has loathed Boris Johnson since he was covering the EU for The Telegraph 30 years ago, and he's been slagging him off yet again today. This is from Friday's Guardian, Nick.
Yes, I feel you've loaded that introduction slightly, Dom.
I so have.
That's not exactly the neutral host I was hoping for. Yeah, well, John Major says Boris broke lockdown laws and is creating mistrust. So he did a little speech, which I hear was ironically titled "In Democracy We Trust." Given he's not a great fan of democracy, some may allege, perhaps some in this
some
room.
votes are more equal than others, I guess.
Right. So he was talking about the importance of democracy. He slammed the Prime Minister. He's basically saying it's ruining trust for this country abroad. He also said a funny thing. He said the ministers were sent out to defend the indefensible, making themselves look gullible or foolish. I'm thinking, isn't that just politics? People defending the indefensible. But anyway, I'm a bit sceptical of this thing of zombie prime ministers popping back up to tell us what to do. Blair, Major. Of course, Remainers love it. Alistair Campbell's been tweeting about it, saying, "Oh, isn't this great?" But I don't know what it actually does for anyone on the Tory side. If you were on the fence about Boris, if anything, this makes you more sympathetic to him, in my opinion. So I don't know who it's designed to really appeal to.
Yeah, and I mean, Major was a great victor for the Tories because he won them the election they weren't supposed to win, 92 or 93, whenever it was. But there was ERM, he was responsible, Maastricht. I mean, he's even though he's part of the same party as Johnson, as far as Europe's concerned, he's ideologically opposed. What did you make of his comments, Eric?
Well, I mean, I think they were all true. I mean, you can't argue with the fact.
Right, I'm cutting you off and we're going on to the next story. No, go on, tell us what...
No, I mean, you can't argue with the fact that Boris has made his ministers look ridiculous, and having to say that a party isn't a party, and, you know, as more and more, as Dominic Cummings drips out more of this, just to needle in getting fired more and more, he's going to make his advisors and the government look ridiculous. And
Maybe.
You can see that with what's happening to Liz Truss in Russia. The country looks ridiculous.
I think Major is late with his kicking, and I think Boris has survived and the worst is over for him.
Oh.
Predictions here on GB News. Right. Crisis in pig farming, reports Friday's Daily Mail. Too many pigs, not enough butchers, Eric.
Yeah, this is something else. So the National Pig Association is talking about the fact that they may have to cull 200,000 pigs because they don't have the workers who can do it properly and get them ready to be served up in the way that they're meant to be. Now, I mean, I would imagine, pigs are very intelligent creatures, actually, so I'm sure they don't want to die in vain. They'd much rather be sacrificed for the greater good or for our meals. I would suspect around the farms in the country there's little copies of Charlotte's Web and Babe DVDs being slid across the table to farmers to try and remind them about how special they are. This is unfortunate because we don't have enough workers to do the work that they're meant to do to prepare the pigs properly. I don't know if the RSPCA has gotten involved because I know they're quite worried about a couple of cats right now, but not about 200,000 pigs getting culled. But we know that this is a direct, I'm going to get in trouble again on the show, this is all because of Brexit.
Sorry, my mind just blanked for a moment there. I think the problem is a shortage of workers, and it's the same problem. There's a global shortage of workers at this price. If you pay the workers more, then suddenly the workers appear. And it's a global problem. It's happening in America.
These are skilled workers that they need to bring in, and I think it's a problem with the government providing the right kind of visas to get them in.
Possibly, but the visa handling has been a mess. Nick, what do you make of this?
I was going to say, when I heard pigs were being destroyed, I thought Zoom has released another video. Eric somewhat usurped me there to that joke. But look, as a vegetarian, I'd probably feel worse, but I'm not one. The point is, it is a serious story. I hope this story cuts through to the sort of metropolitan bubble, because it sort of reminds me of foot and mouth, where I'm from. It was a really serious thing. This is really affecting farmers. I've watched interviews with them. They're all distraught. They don't know what to do with all these pigs. They've got this pig backlog.
Yeah,
it's a very serious thing.
It is very serious. And the cost of feeding the pigs, the cost of pig feed is going up,
heavier,
while the value of the meat is going down.
And the pigs are getting heavier and heavier. They're getting up to 10 kilograms, and the feed is costing more, and they don't know what to do with them. And they basically said there won't even be a pig industry domestically
a lot
soon.
more than 10 kilos, Nick.
I'm sure I read that.
I think they're 10 kilos heavier than they previously were.
That's
Pigs are heavier than humans.
I was thinking that's a bit light. Yeah. Exactly.
Even I'm way more than 10 kilos.
Yeah.
Right. Is it worse than racism, asks Mikel Antonio, hitting the West Ham footballer, hitting back at calls for Kurt Zouma to be sacked over the cat attack. What's it got to do with race, asks Dominic Frisby. This is from Friday's Sun, Nick.
Well, Antonio's point was, he was stopped and asked about Zouma, the whole incident, and he said, is it worse than racism? Because people in the past have made racist comments, like Luis Suarez he probably meant, and they've received 8-match bans, which Suarez did. And his point is they've carried on playing. So he's basically trying to defend his teammate, saying he's done this terrible thing, but is it worse than terrible things that have happened in the past that have led people to carry on playing? So my view is he's done this horrific video, he's been fined, he's lost sponsors. He should be prosecuted under the law, and under French law, he could actually potentially go to prison for up to 4 years, because they've come up with this new law last year.
But can he go to prison in France for a crime committed in Britain, particularly after Brexit?
He can, because they've added this new law. It's in the other story, but they've added this new law that you can be penalised for crimes you committed abroad under this law passed in 2021.
OK. Wow.
So he actually can be. Technically, that could happen. So my view is that, whether he should never play football again because of this video and because of social media, I would question. I think it was stupid to play him in the match the other day, but my thing is just prosecute him under the law like any other person would be the fair thing, in my opinion. But
what's your view, Eric?
Yeah, I think that obviously, harming an animal is vile. Racism.
Have you seen the video?
I've seen the video. Yeah, it's not good, and it's awful. But I think that the point that they're trying to make is that he wants to see people to get just as upset as they are about this cat as people should be getting upset about racism. And I think that that's what he's probably seeing, the inequity there, and that's what they're trying to point out with this.
I don't know if I've seen the wrong video, but the video I saw I didn't think was that bad. He kicks it, but he doesn't kick it. It's a sort of gentle drop
There's
kick.
another one where he slaps it.
There's a whole slap.
Well, the thing is, he said in the statement this was an isolated incident. I'm like, it's a montage. Even in the video, how many isolated incidents are there? Even within the first video, there's like 3 or 4 incidents. He slaps it, he kicks it.
I thought it was sort of making out that he was hitting it and kicking it harder than he actually was.
Oh, you think
he was actually being quite gentle?
Oh, really?
In a physical way.
No one else thinks that, so that's the first I've heard of that.
I must be wrong, because I must have watched the wrong video.
You don't
or
have
something.
a pet, do you?
Anyway, no, but I've had pets, and I know they like a bit of rough and tumble. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe whatever. We've reached the end of part 1. We're going to take a break now, and as I try and recover my career after my wrong views about cats, we urge you to carefully scrutinise whatever's being advertised, and then to join us for part 2, when we'll find out about how the White House toilets got clogged up with confidential papers Donald Trump was trying to flush away.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome to part 2 of Headliners. I'm Dominic Frisby. With me scrutinising tomorrow's papers are leftist Eric McElroy and rightist Nick Dixon. We go to you, Eric, first for this story in The Guardian. Last week we found out that the FBI are using it, and today it's back in the news, this time in Europe. This has rather concerning stuff about Pegasus software.
Yeah, so this is spy software that apparently allows you to take over someone's phone so that you can see what they're doing with, I guess, their tweets, their messages. I don't know if you can listen in as well. I hadn't heard too much about it until this story came up, but the EU is looking at the fact that some government critics in Poland and Hungary seem to have had their phones hacked. And there are rumors that Hungary and Poland, the government, have purchased this software at some point. So the implication is obviously that the sitting government is spying on the opposition, allegedly. Don't know whether or not it's true. It's obviously not good in a democracy to be spying on each other. I mean, ask Nixon how that went when he tried to spy on people. It's not a good idea. The idea of the software taking over your phones, I mean, some people would think that's a scary thing, but I would love to be able to get it to help my father when we talk to him on FaceTime so that we don't have to look at his forehead all the time, actually get him to show us his face.
You don't even know that your phone's been hacked.
Yeah, absolutely terrifying. You don't know it's been hacked, and it says Pegasus allows an operator to take control of a target's mobile device, access all data, even from encrypted messaging apps, and turn on audio or video recording. So it's very disturbing to everyone except Dominic Cummings, who says it sounds brilliant. That's why a lot
you
of
know that everyone's going to be using it.
Apparently the FBI, well, a producer told me this is allegedly already used it, even though they claimed they hadn't. So
yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, but Facebook and Twitter and all those, Amazon and so on, they've all got stuff in their apps that's listening to you, because that's why you sat in a room and you go, oh, I must get a new timber pair of shoes or something, and then you switch your phone on and it's Amazon's advertising shoes at you.
I heard a lengthy explanation on why that isn't the case, and it's actually to do with who you're adjacent to and various other things. But I don't really believe it. I'm with you. I think that.
Oh, it's happening 100%.
I was skeptical about that.
I've done tests.
Until I got my latest iPhone, and I started getting adverts in the morning for anti-snoring things. But my wife says I snore, but I don't.
I promise you, if you sat with your phone and start going, I must book an appointment to get my ear syringed, or I must buy a new pair of Timberland shoes or something, within a minute, Facebook and Amazon will be, next time you go on there, they'll be prompting you with stuff to buy. I don't know if it's Pegasus, but it's something. Now, has Donald Trump really been flushing confidential papers down the loo, or is this fake news in Friday's Independent, Nick?
Great question. It sounds plausible because it sounds like the kind of thing Trump would do. That's the genius of this story. So it's Trump responds to claim he clogged White House toilet with flushed papers. Now, I don't believe for a second that Trump, who is a great man, as Eric was saying to me before the show, I don't think Trump would ever get rid of sensitive documents or anything deliberately. I do think he's the kind of old-school businessman that would, if he's done with a story, would just rip it up. And I think that's the kind of thing I see him doing. That's what I think's happened here. They apparently allegedly had to tape stories back together for him sometimes. But what this is is an upcoming book called Confidence Man from this person, Maggie Haberman. It's much like that book, Fire and Fury. It's a Trump hit piece. 2024 elections coming up. They're bringing out the stories. And you've got to say, and there's a story about him flushing the things, but there's also a story about him removing documents to Mar-a-Lago instead of submitting them to archives when he left office. So as a technicality, he shouldn't have kept them there. He should have resubmitted them. I personally think they're always trying to get little stories on Trump. They never stick. They've had the entire intelligence agencies against him in the Russia hoax. They've tried to impeach him twice. It doesn't work because he's just totally clean. He's spotless, a spotless individual. And Eric will definitely agree, I'm confident.
Wow, that is a level of hyperbole.
It's great to have left and right agreeing.
Well, it's not even left, right. That's just saying an in thing. This is Maggie Haberman who's written this, so she's not a hack job, hit job kind of person. She's from the New York Times, and she's a very confidant. Trump speaks, he spoke to her
The
for
failing
this book,
New York Times.
as Trump would call it, the failing New York Times. She is being criticized because, according to the Presidential Records Act, you can't destroy anything, basically, that the president touches, and that includes some of his burger wrappers as well, while he's in the White House. So destroying anything, even ripping it up after you're done looking at it, is actually a violation of the law. She has this in her book, has witnesses that says it happened, but doesn't, of course, release it until it's time to sell books. So she's being criticized for that. But everything that has been said about Trump and all of these ridiculous things always does end up being true, because if you just wait long enough, he will admit to having done this. And I would love it if this was what got him, kind of like Al Capone was gotten by mail fraud. It'll be Trump being gotten for toilet.
I thought it was non-payment of taxes they got.
But they got him because he was sending things in the mail, and it was about the taxes. It was linked together. With
okay.
And we should say that Trump does say it's fake. Another fake story that I flushed papers and documents down a White House toilet is categorically untrue and simply made up by a reporter in order to get publicity for a mostly fictitious book.
What
Trump
I find
never lies.
Exactly.
What I find strange about it is that, like, if there are documents, they're going to be on a computer somewhere. So the destruction of a document it's still going to be, the evidence is still going to be there.
Good point.
Yeah,
So-
but if people make handwritten notes, even that has to get saved. So
Sure,
everything.
I don't doubt what you're saying, but I don't think by destroying documents he's actually hiding anything. He might just have anyway.
He's breaking
Who
the law.
knows? Fair enough. Friday's Times is next, Eric, with a hateful bill, according to President Joe Biden, to ban discussions of gender and sexuality in Florida primary schools. What's this?
That's right. So this is a bill put on by Ron DeSantis, who's kind of like Trump light. Although he's not that
Great
light.
guy.
He's Trump heavy.
Pro-Bitcoin.
He doesn't have the
Pro-freedom.
charm that Trump does, which Trump has charm of some sort.
Shocking admission.
He doesn't have
you won't be allowed back in your little circle.
He doesn't have the. I mean, Trump can sell. That's what he can do because that's all he has. But this is a bill put forward by Ron DeSantis to try and apparently remove even the discussion of gender and sexual identity, including talking about the fact that somebody might be homosexual in primary schools, because we know the best way to deal with the subject is to deny that it exists. So he's gone with that. But it is harmful.
You naughty man, the way you've spun that.
But I mean, I thought you guys are free speech.
I can
people.
spin it back the other
Telling
way if you
teachers
want.
what they can and can't say in school would be something I know that you will be against.
Okay, well, firstly, have you
Well, I mean, just the last thing is it's just. It is scary to think that if you're in a school, you might have children with gay parents, or this is primary school, so you're going up to year 6, and they can't even discuss homosexuality or gender identity in school. And it is a thing that is real, and a student might have a question about it, and not being able to talk about it is not a good idea.
Okay. Well, firstly, Biden was against gay marriage till 5 minutes ago. You'll remember. He's now
he came
suddenly
out actually for gay marriage before Obama did.
Okay, but he was against it. Now he's changed. So he's suddenly the candidate for all this stuff. But my problem with this is we had this. If it comes up naturally, I discussed this with a gay person before the show. We've got one in the office. If it comes up naturally, from a teacher talking about, we can't go into. If it comes up naturally from a teacher talking about their experience, you know, my ex-boyfriend or something like that, that's fine. And I see that point. That's completely natural. Where it gets strange is, 1, are the kids too young? 2, is it the place of schools or should it be the place of parents? And 3, is when the teacher's imposing it in a bizarre way. I saw a series of TikTok videos recently where the teacher was saying, the kids are confused about my non-binary identity. And people were saying, why are you talking to the kids about your non-binary identity? It's a bit odd to start. It might come up naturally, but when it becomes a strange agenda for some strange reason. It's particularly in that example of the TikTok. You'll have to watch the video. It's quite weird.
Yeah, for clarity, I don't think he was saying you so much on the gay thing. He was saying it was entirely inappropriate for teachers to discuss gender identity.
Yeah.
I think that's their big concern. Schools need to be teaching kids to read, to write. They need to teach them science, history. We need more civics and understanding of the US Constitution, which makes our country unique. All that basic stuff. I'm kind of on board with that.
But I think you're saying that talking about gender identity is necessarily a bad thing, and I don't know why it is.
at such a young age, I think it is confusing and not necessary.
Yeah, my kid's been all right.
And the proof of the pudding is in the fact that everyone is moving to Florida. Because of the low... They are, though. It's got the highest immigration of any state in America, apart from Texas.
Right, which is another place you want to go, unless you like to have heat
Love
in the
Texas.
winter.
Took my kids to Texas, and within 36 hours, they were shooting a gun, driving a car, riding a horse, and eating steak, all within 36 hours of arriving.
And prepping.
Were they ever? And that was the next day. Right, Friday's Mail is next. Nick, and Barclays is trying to crack down on romance scams. What's this?
Oh, yeah. So Barclays Bank updated their customers' payment purpose options in December. So because there's been so much fraud, and particularly there was this Tinder swindler who was this is an Israeli guy who sort of lured women in. There's a whole Netflix drama about it now. So because they're trying to crack down on this kind of romance scam thing, and so now they'll prompt you and say, are you sending this money to a loved one? And I suppose what it is, they're trying to stop this kind of psychological fraud, because most scams like this are psychological. I remember the late John McAfee, God bless him, he called into a TV show once and he hacked their phone, so it looked like it was the network calling them. It looked like a normal call. But he said the actual technology part was very simple, but it's the confidence part, the con of it. So what they're trying to do here is they're saying, is this really someone who you want to be sending money to? It's mildly creepy from the bank, but it's well-intentioned creepiness.
Any views, Eric?
I like well-intentioned creepiness. I mean, it's surprising that we're talking about this as an issue of fraud, because I think we just heard of Kwasi Kwarteng saying there is no problem with fraud in the UK, or it's not a crime that... what was he said the other day when they were talking about crime stats? And he was saying that fraud is not that big of a problem. It doesn't affect regular people. Well,
really?
Barclays seems to... Yeah.
Kwarteng said that?
Yeah, it says 13 million in the 12 months of September falling victim to fraud and hacks.
There's so many online frauds during the lockdown.
He was getting caught up in the whole thing about the government spinning the crime stats is going down if you take out fraud crime. And he was trying to say, well, fraud's not something that affects most people, or something to that effect.
Okay.
He was kind of blasted for it in the media.
All right, so to Friday's Express and the legend that is Dolly Parton. Is even more of a ledge than previously thought, Eric. Why is that?
Well, I mean, hopefully you can't have any left-right split on Dolly Parton, because she's absolutely fantastic. I won't tell Nick that she helped develop the Moderna vaccine, because that might... I don't know if that's something I should bring up or not. But I mean,
she's a great champion of low taxes and individual responsibility, Eric.
But if you're going to develop a vaccine, if you're worried about Bill Gates, take the one that Dolly Parton came up with. That's all I'm saying. But here, she has a Dollywood, which I've never been to, but I do want to go to, which is a theme park in America. Of course it is. And she's got about 11,000 employees, and she said that she's going to help them go to university by covering some of their tuition costs, and which is absolutely fantastic. You know, it's going to take, going from working 9 to 5 to studying in the evening, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a very generous gesture.
It is.
Now, tell our listeners what you told me earlier about the timing of this.
Well, she is releasing a book tomorrow as well.
An album or a book?
I thought it was a song, but it was a book. I read the article. But the other, so maybe there's a little bit of publicity there. But
I thought she was releasing a song as well.
There might be. Well, there's probably another song in there too.
Okay.
But one of the reasons why she's doing this now is because part of one of Joe Biden's agenda pieces was to give free community college, which is kind of the first 2 years of university in the U.S., kind of beyond foundation year equivalent in the U.K. And he wanted to have that in his Build Back Better bill, but that's been stymied in Congress because of Republicans and some conservative Democrats. So that was announced that's kind of dead. So now she's doing this.
She's almost trolling Biden by doing what he failed to do, in a way.
He failed to do is what Congress failed to do.
Well, okay.
Yeah, it's the free market taking control, which was what we like to see.
But she's incredibly generous, because she's been so nice to her employees, because she understands what it's like to work from 9 to 5, as you said. So, yeah, I really hope... She's
also showed a good business acumen by doing the great gesture the day before she goes to book. So she's killing two birds with one stone.
Yeah. Well, you would see that side. I just see the goodness of it.
Well, I thought that first.
I see one of the greatest singer-songwriters alive today. Right, this is in Friday's Sun, and Tesla is being sued over racial discrimination, Nick.
Oh, yeah, this is interesting. I mean, Elon Musk Tesla sued over alleged racial discrimination at California HQ, and it's a lawsuit from the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing, who are claiming there's racial discrimination and segregation at Tesla's Fremont factory, which is possible. It sounds kind of weird to me that one of the biggest companies in the world, in one of the most left-wing places in the world, is like running a Jim Crow system in its factories. The segregation part sounds kind of questionable. But there's a claim that there's been a certain number of racial racist incidents, and so they're launching this lawsuit. There's not that much else about it yet. What were you going to ask me something?
I was surprised you described Tesla as left wing.
No, California.
Oh, California.
I'm saying, but it's happening in California. You know, there's only like Portland and Venezuela more left wing. So I just thought it's quite unlikely to me. This could be, in my guess, this is just a guess, if they're claiming there's some sort of segregated workplace, is that it's some sort of natural distribution. And then because everything has to be equality of outcome now, maybe they're saying, oh, you can't have any racial difference in any factory or something. But I find it highly unlikely that Tesla's doing this deliberately. But it does say there's apparently. The agency claimed one black worker heard racial slurs as often as 50 to 100 times a day.
That's extraordinary.
So, it's crazy.
What's your thought of this?
I mean, it does say there have been hundreds of complaints from workers. And California, yes, the coasts are liberal, but the further in you go, the more conservative it gets, shall we say. But apparently Tesla's on top of this because the article says they've done a blog post that they're going to be doing anti-racism training, which is never good if that's what your company's having to say. You do to teach people not to be racist, and also doing it on a blog post.
Yeah.
Is it 2004? I thought Tesla was at cutting edge technology.
Although, to be fair...
Apparently it's on Substack and you have to pay $50 to read it.
To be fair, they gave out $137 million to a former employee after racist claim.
$137 million?
Yeah.
I'm going to get a job at Tesla. Right, part 2 is coming to an end. We'll have some ads, then part 3, which is the best bit, when we find out how Wordle saved the life of an 80-year-old mother. We'll see you in a moment.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate.
From all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
Make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows. Every day, we ask the questions
That you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for...
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back to part 3 of Headliners. My name is Dominic Frisby, and I have a clown to the left of me in the form of Eric McElroy, and a joker to the right in the form of Nick Dixon. And together we are looking at Friday's papers. And it's very tense in here with our differing political views. I can feel a fight about to break out at any moment. The Times is next, and the incredibly viral online word game Wordle has apparently saved an 80-year-old lady who'd been locked up in a basement, Eric, kidnapped or held hostage.
Yeah, it's an incredible story. First off, so do you Wordle?
No.
You don't Wordle. Do you Wordle?
Not yet.
No.
Everyone else is doing it, so I naturally can't.
I mean, I like it because it's a very easy crossword. It's kind of like Hangman, but on the internet, basically. You guess a word. But this is a story. I mean, I like doing the Wordle. I don't like the fact that people share it on social media. I think that's what's putting people off, and that's a little bit you share your scores and so on. But here it did help. This is a woman named Denise Holt who lives in Illinois, and basically she does the Wordle every day, and then she shares it with her daughter, because you only get one word a day. That's what made it go so viral. Is you can only play it one time, and you have to wait a full day for the next. She would play the Wordle, she's 80 years old, and then she would message her daughter with what she, if she'd gotten it yet or not, and her daughter would respond. But in the middle of the night, someone broke into Denise's house with a pair of scissors, held her at scissor point, then got some knives, took her down to the basement, locked her up in the basement.
To an 80-year-old woman?
80-year-old woman.
Horrific.
Trapped her in the house. They finally realized she was missing and called the police and so on. The guy was still in the house when the police arrived, and they luckily actually got in and removed them both. She was rescued. He was amazingly, because it's America, usually they just shoot someone like this. But they did remove him, and it's a happy ending. But my favorite part of the story was when the police at the end said about the man who'd done it, quote, "It was fair to say the police suspected he was suffering from mental illness."
Yeah.
That's one of the most understated statements I've ever
Do we
heard.
know why he held her? Did he steal off her or anything?
No, he stayed in the house. That's the thing. He was there for at least 12 hours.
Just
So
mental.
he was
basically.
clearly
Poor lady must have been
unwell.
terrified.
Oh, it's horrific. But it's a great thing that it was solved. It's a beautiful thing that because her mother didn't respond with her word, or she knew there was something up. It's kind of like if I don't text Andrew Doyle a complaint every day, he knows there's something wrong. The word was skill, which is really interesting. The only funny thing, well, not funny, is if it had been stuck or something like that, but that's probably a bit too dark. Very dark story. And there was a 5-hour SWAT team came. There was a 5-hour standoff. It's an insane story. It's like a movie, but it's so great. There was a happy ending.
It take 5 hours to get one bloke out. Anyway, I'm sure there was a reason for it. Staying with the Times, Nick, and a collection of trainers has just fetched $25 million. $25 million for a collection of trainers at Sotheby's. No doubt you were one of the buyers, Nick.
Well, I would like to say that, Don, but I've hit the age where I can only wear New Balance for pure comfort. You know, when you hit that level where it's pure... You're a stylish guy, but I've hit that level where it's just pure comfort.
Is New Balance old man's trainers?
They have wider
I thought they were
fittings.
quite... Oh, okay.
And apparently they're pro-Trump, so it's all good. But this was Virgil Abloh, who very sadly died last year, and he was this brilliant designer. And it's his limited edition sneaker. Yeah, fetches $25 million at Sotheby's. The most expensive individual trainer was $350,000.
Trainers, pair of trainers.
Yes.
Only
Not
one?
No, just one. That was one. The other one,
the one-legged trainer.
The other one was
wearer.
$6 million. It was
the
a nightmare.
one-legged billionaire who bought it. You know.
And so this guy's been described as Karl Lagerfeld for millennials, and then Andy Warhol for our times. So he's like, there's this trainer culture lost on someone like me with my New Balance running shoes, but there's this huge trainer culture, and it's fetching
My son
millions.
is 21, and he spends almost all of his money on trainers. He's just got pair after pair.
Really?
They cost, they're way, they're like 100 quid, over 100 quid, some of them. And often he'll barely wear them at all, and then they'll decide they're out of fashion and discard them. He's obsessed with them, and all his mates are.
Then do you sell them on after that? You could sell them at an auction.
Probably should.
They say it's going to be the new Bitcoin coming up.
Trainers.
Trainers. I don't relate to this
trainers.
story either. I mean, growing up, I got 2 pairs of shoes every year because we didn't have school shoes, because we didn't have to wear uniforms. New pair of shoes at Christmas, new pair of shoes on my birthday, and that was it. So, I mean, I don't understand.
Young people. My daughter's obsessed with them, my elder daughter. Right, Friday's Mail is next. A restaurant's dress code has gone down rather badly. When jokes go wrong, Eric.
Yeah, I don't know if it was meant to be a joke or not, or what they were trying to do. I think it's a Japanese cuisine restaurant, so think about it. They were trying to, I think, go for like a Hooters with sushi, according to this, that the restaurant that got in trouble in Surrey for
bringing haute cuisine to Leatherhead.
I think it's the most exciting thing to ever happen to Leatherhead. But basically, they had a dress code that said that ladies had to wear, and it's got a nice list of things. So it said they wanted to have a stylish restaurant. Again, Leatherhead's a lovely place. So the men were asked to wear jackets. For the men, no tracksuits, no T-shirts, and women can wear skinny jeans with sexy black ankle strap heels and a form-fitting top, which is the shoes I'm wearing right now. Otherwise, they could wear...
Underneath what you've got on.
Oh, yeah, the shoes. But yeah, otherwise they had different types of dresses, namely middies or bodycon dresses, which I don't quite know what those are, but I think they're meant to be. Body contour? Oh, is that... Do you like?
Presumably.
Presumably.
Do you think it's when jokes go wrong?
Well, I don't think it's a joke. I mean, they said it was published by mistake, which I believe that part. But if you look at it...
I think they wrote it and they thought it would be funny. And,
No. If you read it, it's a 14-point list of things people have to do.
Yeah, no,
They're not funny. One of them is like, if even one guest in the group doesn't have ID, they will be turned away. What I think it is they've tried to create an exclusive event, been really strict about it. Because it's one thing to say what your staff should wear, but this is what the customers should wear. Yeah. So I just think they've tried to do a bit of a snooty event and got it wrong.
OK, well, whether it was a joke or not, they've got it wrong. Scandal in Friday's Daily Mail as a woman takes 4 months off work to help her kids with their exams, Nick.
Yeah, Co-op boss, 54, takes 4-month unpaid career break to help two sons prepare for their GCSEs and A-level exams this year. I think it's nice. I think it's nice for a mother to go and help their kids in this difficult time. I mean... the question is, what was she doing in the workplace in the first place? I'm joking. Can you say that joke anymore? No one knows. I'll be cancelled for that. No, the danger of it is, I think it's a great thing to be able to take leave. The danger is if you come back and no one noticed you'd gone and that you were actually doing anything.
You worry about that, Nick?
I do sometimes. That's why I'm always here. No holidays for me, unless I get cancelled for that joke. The only thing is, let's be fair, you can actually, if you've worked at Co-op apparently for more than a year, anyone can apply for a break for 3 to 12 months. The only problem is if your request's turned down, you have to wait another year. And the difference, of course, is if you run the place, you probably won't be turned down. But yeah, she's basically gone for an unpaid 4-month break to help her kids.
Any thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, I've got a daughter doing GCSEs this year, and the pressure is immense. And I don't like the focus on just exams for your results, because in America, we trust our teachers to give grades. We trust them to teach the kids. I think we should trust them to grade the kids.
Well, our previous story would suggest you did no longer trust them to teach them the right things. But anyway, let's move on. A story from Friday's Mirror to fill all those who have lost their faith in lost property with renewed hope. A man who lost his false teeth 11 years ago while being sick in a Benidorm bin has had his false teeth returned to him, Eric. What a happy ending to the story.
I mean, normally, this is a story in the Mirror, and normally you hear about these reunion things, and it's someone who lost their engagement ring or their wedding ring, and it's found again, washed up on a beach. But here's a man who lost his teeth for reasons we don't want to keep saying over and over again. But basically, he lost them a decade ago in Benidorm, and I would imagine a lot of people go to Benidorm and lose something. But he got on well because he'd been drinking pints of lager all day, and he was feeling a bit bloated, and he got to the point in the evening, and this would only happen with a British person, I have to say, where he decided, because he was feeling bloated from drinking too much lager, he thought, I know what I'll do, I'll have a pint of cider. That's how you sort yourself out when you've had too much to drink, a different kind of drink. Upset his tummy a little bit, up came it all, and he lost his teeth, but...
He didn't even notice he'd lost them.
Well, he did notice a few hours later.
Someone told him later.
He was doing an Elvis impersonation.
But he went on from that to sing all night long, drink more, and do Elvis impressions. So he didn't ruin the holiday, because it was a birthday party. And then because of a DNA test, which he'd taken, and I can say from the story, he was not actually accused of anything or found guilty, but it was on file with the police. They did a match, because in Spain, you can't throw away something that's part of a body part. So they researched, the hours spent on this, based on one binge, is insane.
Yeah, they found his body part. By law, when they found his body part, they had to do the DNA test, and they located him.
Because he was in the police for something he wasn't convicted of.
Any insights to offer?
No, I think Eric's covered it very well. I'm sure that's the reason you came to Britain. This is a great British story, isn't it? Story of heroism, really.
You told that story beautifully, Eric. Wigs in court are culturally insensitive and should be banned, says Black QC Leslie Thomas, after a junior barrister with an afro was told he must wear one. Nick, what do you make of this? From Friday's Times.
Yes, ban culturally insensitive wigs, says black barrister with afro hairstyle. And then he's been backed up by Leslie Thomas QC, who says that wigs were fashioned for Caucasian hair and look ridiculous on black advocate, whereas, of course, on white people, they just look really, really cool. One could argue that the wigs look a bit silly on everyone, but the point is they're harder to wear with different hairstyles. They come from the 17th century. Perhaps they're out of fashion. And people are complaining, hey, it's hard for me to wear this wig and feel comfortable, and they don't look as good on me as they look on the white judges who just look like legends. So that's the issue.
I don't think it's an issue of looks.
It's comfort. Well, the looks were raised. They looked and the comfort. They were both raised.
But obviously, it's a traditional thing, which I like some traditions like this. But you do have to, if it's being used as an exclusionary thing, where you have a hairstyle that doesn't, would be ridiculous with this, because the gentleman in question has fairly big hair, and wearing a wig on top of it would not make any sense. I mean, apparently the wigs are to provide. Well, no, I think that's insensitive to say as well. That why should he have to cut his hair if that's his style and his hair?
Our producer suggested everyone should have afros. They should all wear afros. That's another solution.
That's another way. But I mean, the wigs are meant to provide anonymity. I don't know how wearing a wig gives you anonymity unless you wear it over your face. I mean, that's
I think that's why do they wear wigs in court? Do you know why the whole wig culture started in the first place? I think it was Louis XIV in France. It was believed that if you had syphilis, you went bald, so people wore wigs because they didn't want people to think they had syphilis.
We don't want to be doing it.
And it spread from there into the court.
If it's something the French do, we don't want to do it here.
Well, it spread over here, and I don't think wigs... They're sort of gradually fading out of courts. Yeah. You don't need them in the family courts. You don't need them in the civil courts, I don't think, even before the Supreme Court. But I think the purpose of them is to sort of almost dehumanise the barrister or the QC who's wearing the wig, a bit like masks, and to kind of give you status and show the sort of the status of the law, if you like. Yeah. I think that's the purpose of them. Possibly. A lot of these old traditions, we sort of no longer know why they exist, but they did exist for an actual purpose.
And I think it's good to ask the questions about why they exist and see if they're still relevant today, and perhaps they're not.
Yeah. Anyway, they're gradually on their way out, no matter what that QC says. So we go to Friday's Daily Star now, and a bloke from down the pub has found out his pics are being used to seduce gay men looking for love with a false identity, a.k.a. catfishing, a word I only learnt on this programme 2 days ago.
Oh, right.
Catfishing,
okay.
Yeah.
You'd want to know about that. Obviously, that's...
And my pictures are used all the time, you know.
I mean, it is a compliment to have your picture used. Obviously, you don't want to be catfishing anyone where you're, tricking people into giving you money and so on. But this gentleman, who doesn't happen to be gay, but was being used on a gay dating app named Kieran Bear, apparently one of his mates noticed that he was on the app, which I don't know if that mate now has some explaining to do. How that came about. But Kieran wasn't upset. He had a good humor about it. He was annoyed that they basically made him look because in the description, it had him shorter than he actually is. And they didn't mention the fact that he runs pub quizzes and karaoke nights. So if they thought, if they're going to use my picture, at least get my job right, so I maybe get a little business out of this. Which is a great way to look at your identity being used in a bad way.
Yeah. Have you been catfished, Mr. Dixon?
I hope not. Sometimes you go on those dating apps and the pictures are so good, you think, can this person be real? And then they start asking you for money. And you do get suspicious. They have a Nigerian cousin. So sometimes it has happened to me and I've gone, of course I give the money anyway, just to be safe.
I mean, it's such an easy scam to pull because you're exploiting people's dreams. And let's just say, on a scale of 1 to 10, let's say you're a 5 and then an 8 gets in touch. Well, the 8 is, the person that you always dreamed of having, your little fairy prince or your fairy princess, and you're going to be taken in because the fact that you're a 5 and the 8's getting in touch with you is sort of flattering to all the bits of you that you want flattered.
Of course, I'm a 10, so I never face it, but I can imagine.
You sound like you've thought about this a lot since you learned about it only 2 days ago.
Well, my other half is very good worryingly good on Tinder statistics. But apparently it's I think it's an unbelievable thing, like men respond to like 80% of messages and women only respond to 5% of messages or something like that. And you tend to find that like 10% of men get all the dates and 80% of men get ignored, and there's all these frightening things, and then you get a lot of men who are like 8s going out with women who maybe are 6s, and then it's a whole...
It's the Pareto distribution of the global dating marketplace.
Yeah.
There we go.
That was a good sentence, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'll say. I didn't realise you had that in the locker, Nick.
I'm impressed, Nick. I'm impressed.
So to Friday's most stupid story from where else but the Star. A zoo has hired a Marvin Gaye impersonator to get monkeys in the mood for love, Nick.
Yes, and I'd forgotten to read this story, but let's read it out. A zoo hires Marvin Gaye impersonator to encourage monkeys to get it on in mating season. Zookeeper, so they've hired him to perform... I mean, that's apparently the whole story. They've hoped it will romantically inspire the animals. Did you read this one, Eric?
I did read it. So basically, they've got singing these, beautiful songs to get the monkeys to get it on. And but the thing is here, it says a zoo worker said that the Motown hits would allow female monkeys to show a bit of affection, blaming the women.
OK, well, that is all we have time for. Thank you to my two guests, Eric McElroy and Nick Dixon. We'll be back with more Headliners tomorrow at the same time with Mark Dolan hosting. Headliners is, of course, running nightly. Such is its enormous success and popularity, for which I take full credit. I was going to plug the website where you can find out about more stories, but there's not time. So until tomorrow, goodbye.